Hey everyone, Mike Rosehart here, talking to you guys today about the joint venture partnership. How do you structure a joint venture partnership? Now I'm going to get into how you structure a good joint venture partnership. So what are some of the key components and how do you actually split the deal up? Well, it depends on the deal, and I wish I could say that every deal was the same. It's not. It really depends on the return on investment. So let's talk about some high-level scenarios, right? So scenario A is completely turnkey. You're buying a property that is an okay deal. You might say the deal is like, on the scale of like deal factor, it's like worth 10% of the deal. Then you might have, right, that's for D. Then you've got your management, and this is a pretty turnkey property, one single family tenant, not a lot of management work. Let's say that's worth 10% of the deal to do all of that work. Then you have financing worth 80% of that deal. So that's one structure you could consider, right? And so you might do a profit structure where if someone put up all the financing, they would get 80% of all the profits, all the cash flow, and all of the net profit on sale. So that might be one way you structure it. Then you might have another deal that's so sweet on the other side of the spectrum where you might give 30% of the value just to whoever controls the deal. You say, look, I'll give you almost a third of the profit, 30% of the profit, just for bringing that deal to, for letting me partner with you on that deal, because I know I can get within, so let's say when the renovation is done in 90 or 120 days, almost all of my deals, I've had my entire down payment back. So a good deal is one where you have, if you manage it effectively, you get all of your capital back. So you own a property with none of your own money in it. Both the partners have no money in the project after like 4 or 5 months. That's the type of deal that's just really, really sweet. That's my preferred type of deal. And those types of deals, who cares if you split the profit 50-50? Let's say you give management 20%, because there's a lot of renovation work to do, and this one's a messy property. It might be a duplex or a triplex, more work than a single family turnkey. And so then the financier might get, so the financier, or I call it the money. I call this the money, but you can also call it like the financier, the person bringing the financing to the deal and the capital to the deal. That person might get 50% of the deal, but if they got all of their down payment back first, and by the way, whoever brings the money always gets secured on title because their money has to be guaranteed. So if person doesn't deliver on deal and management, like for instance, if I don't deliver on deal and management in a project, I make nothing. So my cut becomes zero. They get paid first, always. You have to make sure the investor gets paid first, always. That's really, really important to make sure the investor feels secure, because they don't want to be the one, they don't want to lose money, and no one wants to lose money. So we're talking about when there's upside, then you can split that more effectively between the active manager and the person who brought the deal. In apartment building commercial investing, sometimes people get 10% of the deal just for bringing the apartment deal to the investors, just for syndicating the deal is what they call it, for bringing everything together. They get 10% of the deal automatically. In these big $5 million projects, sometimes they get 10% automatically for bringing the investors together, for bringing the deal together. They get like 500K of that. And the investors are okay, because that's only a couple of percentage points on their overall return. If they're getting 18 or 20% return instead of 25, me personally as an investor, it doesn't bother me at all. About the structure and the components you need to consider when you're going to a joint venture. One, you need to consider the fit. So what is the overall fit with the joint venture partners? Are you guys going to get along well? Do you think you can work together over a 2 or 3 year period to unlock the value in the property? Can you handle this person's personality? Do you believe that they're going to do what they say they're going to do? All of these types of things. So just making sure there's a fit. I think wherever there's money and two people are flexible or agreeable, you usually have a good opportunity to be joint venture partners. I look for people who are flexible and reasonable. That's the two components, right? And obviously, centered on making a good return on investment. Emotion can't be considered in the decision. So despite what you might like emotionally for a property, you have to think about it from what is the return on this investment? What is the best decision for the return on investment? Next is making sure you get a win-win scenario set up. So if you bring someone a deal and you want them to give you financing, because people ask me, well, Mike, how do I get financing on my flips? I'm doing a flip or I have a rental property. How do I get financing for this deal? I don't have enough capital to buy the deal. My favorite partnerships were when the partners had the money to buy the deal. I always feel the best partnering with someone who has a lot of money because they have a lot to lose. And they have the capital that if things go bad, they can step in and add that capital. If the markets dry up and no one can get refinancing and we need capital to do a renovation, I like it when both partners have the financial backing. They have that ability to do that. So ideally, the person who does the people and the management also has financial means as well. They're not just broke. But you could have those scenarios where you might partner with someone who is the workhorse, who's going to do all the management, all the renovation, everything, and you give them a percentage of the deal for doing everything. My caution would be make sure that they're proven. And if they're not proven, make sure that you're the expert who's partnering with them. So I might partner with someone who I believe is going to be really strong workhorse in this property, and I'll mentor them and give them the expertise as a result of our working together. They'll benefit and I'll benefit, and that'll create a win-win scenario. But if you bring a deal that's bad, like you brought this deal we talked about before, the turnkey deal, they didn't really have any upside and the cash flow is kind of bad, just not a really good deal overall. It's hard to pitch them and say, hey, I'll take 25–40% of this deal if there isn't a huge upside, right? It really hurts the return on investment. So if you're a money partner out there and you're looking to partner with someone who's an active investor, please guys make sure the deal is strong enough, the cash flow is strong enough for you to justify giving away a percentage of that, as a property management fee or as a net profit sharing agreement on sale. So that's something to consider. Make sure there's a win-win scenario. Make sure there's enough money to go around for everyone. If you have most investors will have an internal rate of return or internal threshold they're looking for. So let's say it's 15%. Anything after 15% is gravy. So if the project makes 30%, it's fine to split that 15%, between the investor and the active manager. That's fine if you want to do that kind of split, because you're getting your 15% you're after. If you're after 25%, then maybe you can only give 5% away on a 30% deal to the active manager. So you have to make sure that the numbers work for the deal. And each deal is based on the situation of that deal, what the upside is, what the amount of work that needs to be done is. All of those factors need to be considered. Clearly define the roles is really important too, because most people don't clearly define what those roles are. Two people will actively manage the property together and they'll clash, or someone might do all of the work and someone does none of the work. Someone might bring all of the value, someone else brings none of the value, none of the expertise. You need to make sure that, like I even did some deals myself where it was like 50-50 and you go 50-50 with a friend, but then I would do all the work. That's a terrible deal for me. For me to go 50-50 and put up half the money with them, like I'm not talking about me going 50-50 with no money, none of my capital, but I would get the financing, I put up half my capital, and if I went 50-50, that's a really bad deal for me because I'm doing all of the active management, I've brought the deal to the table, I brought all the value, and all they've brought is half of the financing. So they're really bringing, like, let's say financing is worth 30% or 40% of the deal. They've brought like 15% of the value of the deal. I brought 85% of the value of the deal. So I'm getting destroyed. If you're making those deals and you're on the other side and someone else is doing all the work, then that could be a win-win situation. If the deal's really sweet, then I guess both parties win, and if it's a 50 cents on the dollar deal, then you can make those types of deals work. But just everyone has to win. That's the key piece at the end of the day. You have to set up a win-win situation where the roles are clearly defined, and if those are changing where one person's doing all of the work, you might need to adjust the profit split accordingly. You might need to go 55-45 or 60-40. A lot of my original deals were 60-40 or 65-35, where I would get 65%. I put up half the capital and get a 15% additional profit and upside ownership of the property because I was doing all of the active renovation and all of the active deal hunting, all of the work that was associated with bringing this deal to the investor, and then from start to finish, helping them double their money or triple their money in a lot of cases. That sort of really high triple-digit return. And so that's sort of how you set up a win-win situation. And always, guys, I did a lot of handshake agreements in my own starting off, a lot of, oh, we're friends, we'll trust each other, but always put it in writing. Get a joint venture agreement together and put it in writing. It'll outline in the joint venture agreement. I've got some that I've used. You can Google and find some contracts for free. Even if it's like 2 or 3 pages, doesn't have to be one of those massive joint venture partnership agreements, but put something on paper that says, hey, the profit split is this. The active person is getting this and doing these X and Y tasks, and the other person is doing this with X and Y tasks, and always have a shotgun clause in your agreement where if partners can agree on something, there's a buyout price. So a shotgun agreement clause is effectively where, if I offer you $250,000 for the property, I say, shotgun clause, I want to activate, I'll give you 250 grand for the property. You can turn around and buy me out for 250 grand. So you have the option, as soon as I offer at 250, you can buy me out at 250. What that does is ensure that I'm going to offer darn near market value return on that property. So when I offer to buy you out at 250, the property better be worth 250 or you're going to buy it and just resell it on me. So the shotgun agreement and joint venture clause ensures that if things ever go south, you have a way to get out, an amicable way. You could set up other ways of doing it where you have appraisals done, but every appraisal is different. So you bring in 3 appraisers and they all have different values. So it can be really, really difficult to discern, and you don't obviously want to sell when you're under pressure, when there's a conflict between the partnership. That's not a great time to sell. It might be in like December during Christmas when it's not a great time to sell in the market, or it might be, you know what I mean? So it's better to time out your your exit strategy. And always go into the joint venture partnership with an exit strategy in mind, and make sure you crunch those numbers. At the end of the day, that's the most important piece, is that the numbers work for everyone. We don't manage properties and we don't get investing in real estate because we love it. That's like a side factor. Maybe we enjoy it a little bit, myself included, but we usually get in to do this to make money. And that's the reason everyone's come together, is to grow our wealth and get a good return on investment and solid cash flow to unlock financial independence or whatever goal that we're after at the end of the day. So that is how you set up a joint venture partnership. Don't always, like if you're gonna go 50-50, make sure that you're looking at the three components to the deal, the money, the management, and the deal, and see who's brought which components to the table and what value to the table, and that's how you determine who gets what. The active manager needs to be at least given a compensation of a fee or some structure if you're going 50-50 and they're doing all the work. That really needs to you have to put that in the contract and really do that. So those are some of the key components. Sorry if this is a bit scrambled, guys. As always, I hope you enjoyed this. This is a bit of a longer video, and I appreciate if you made it all the way to the end. If you did find value from this video, please guys share this on your Facebook, on Instagram. Just share it on social media if you found value from it. Send it to your joint venture partner and say, hey, we actually negotiated a really great deal. Look at the deal we could have negotiated. Or, hey, I have a joint venture partner and we don't have an agreement in place. We should put something on paper. We should go out, just even if you write some things down on a piece of paper of who does what and how the profit is split on sale and the cash flow each month is split and the delineation of duties, and just sign it. Both you guys sign it and make a copy of that. Just really good to have. When you put things in writing, then later on, 2 years from now, you can be clear on who said what and who did what, and just makes things really smooth and helps the process go along really, really well. And if you're just out there learning, I hope that you guys found value from the three different pieces of value that come from a real estate transaction. So the money, the management, and the deal. And what my question for you guys is, what are you out there exploring? Are you learning to master the art of the deal, as Trump would say, the art of the deal? Or are you learning to master management and renovations and all that, and managing those pieces of value unlocking and creation? Or are you just interested in, you saved up enough capital and you have no interest in getting tenant phone calls, and you just want to be the passive or silent partner, the passive partner that just puts up the financing and gets a great return on their investment? What are you out there looking to do? And as always, you guys know I'm growing here in London, Ontario. And if you do want to buy some properties here in London with me, let me know. Reach out to me. We'll get in touch. We'll chat about it. I've got this really lofty goal right now of 100 properties and 1,000 properties within Holding Corp. It would be really cool to do. It's not about the money for me really anymore. It's more of a scorecard. I just enjoy doing this, and I enjoy building and growing things. And when you make people money, it feels really good. Everyone's really happy. So it's just been kind of fun to do this. Anyway, guys, hope you guys are enjoying this. Oh, I'm getting a call live. As always, spend less, earn more, and maximize your returns to unlock a wealthier you. Mike Rosehart. Bye, everyone. Hey, dude.